And in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you my own thoughts regarding the recent Doug Carter radio interview discussing the Delphi murders.
The guy in custody, Richard Allen, is he the only person being looked at in this investigation?
Right now, he's the one. He's the one that's been that's now facing murder charges. So, again, we are not going to stop looking at other people until this is completely done and we have nothing left to do.
Now, what I pick up upon during his first answer here is that there's quite a lot of stuttering, a lot of stalling, a lot of trying to think about how to phrase his answer, which tells me it's not an easy question to answer in the first place. This isn't simply a yes or no answer, which then leads me on to believe that we're not done yet. We're not done with other individuals who may be charged in connection with these murders. I'm not hearing from Doug Carter here, yes, we've got our man in custody. This has taken a long time, but the processes that we've gone through, we've got our man and we're going to move forward from here. I'm not hearing that in this answer. It's almost as if it's open-ended. We're not going to stop looking. We're not going to stop taking tips. We're not going to stop looking for other people who may be involved, which tells me there's every possibility here that there are further individuals who will be charged or at least connected to these murders.
One of the things that I've heard is why not release the cause of death? Not because people are morbidly curious, but if they knew they were looking for somebody that was either a stab or a gunshot, maybe they know somebody that sold the gun, sold the knife. Maybe they could find the weapon somewhere. What's the rationale for not releasing the official cause of death?
Because the individual or individuals that did it, only they know what they did.
Then we move on to some talk regarding releasing the cause of death. Maybe we'd be looking for a knife or a gun. Would that help the investigation? Would that help more tips come in? And his answer, I'm sure, is going to raise a few eyebrows here. Now, the individual or individuals concerned, they know what they did. Now, is Doug Carter here just referring to one individual by saying they? A lot of people are going to say he's using they, that's multiple people. It has to be multiple people because he said the word they. But is he just covering all bases here? I wonder what he means when he says that. Individual or individuals. I'm trying to put myself in his position when answering these questions and leaving, I guess, an element of vagueness to my response. And I guess that's what I would say. Immediately he says individual. And then he says individual, so he's covering both sides, isn't he? Saying the individual or individuals concerned, they know what they did. The thing that, as I say, sticks out to me though, is the fact that he's using the word they. Does that mean there is more than one individual, not just concerned in the case, but maybe even the murder, potentially?
Only they know what they did.
Now, just re-listening to that one more time, the fact that he says they twice, to me, is quite telling. Now, some people may say, you're reading too much into it, but the fact that he hasn't said he or the individual, he's saying they twice. They know what they did. If that was just a slip of a tongue, you could understand it being said once. But the fact that he has made a point there, or not even a point, but he said it in a sentence, one sentence. They know what they did. To me, that tells me that there is more than one individual concerned here, at least by what I'm hearing in this particular interview.
And I'm trying to think of the right way to say this. Has that slowed down the investigation? Because I think the public, with all of their tips, has been a big help in this. Wouldn't it make sense to have the public looking for the possible weapon?
I don't think at this point it would. Functionally, I understand the question, Hammer. I really do understand it. And we're going to look back on this and probably realize, dang, I wish we'd have done A, B, and C rather than B and E.
And then we have some further discussion regarding the cause of death. Has the fact that you haven't released the cause of death, has that caused some sort of delay in this investigation? We're looking for a gun, we're looking for a knife. Has the fact that you haven't released that information caused a delay? And the response is pretty much one of deflection, isn't it? His actual response is, I don't think at this point it would cause a delay, or I don't think at this point it would. Well, of course it wouldn't at this point because you've made an arrest. It's no good releasing that information now because you have someone that you've arrested. So it's complete deflection here, the way that this question is actually answered. But then he does say, maybe we'll look back and say we could have chosen different options had we been given this opportunity to investigate the case again. So he does answer it in some ways, but his initial response is, as I say, one of deflection. I don't think at this point it would. Well, as I say, of course it wouldn't, because you already have someone who you've arrested.
We can't talk about what we think. I've said this many times before. You should expect us to only talk about what we know. And that even changes more so once there's a probable cause affidavit signed by a judge for the arrest of an individual. Not just Richard Allen, but in any criminal case, especially a complex criminal case. This case is unlike any that I've seen in almost a 40-year career. So there are so many different tentacles to this. It's very complex.
Again, that part there is very interesting, very compelling, very intriguing. He mentions this case being incredibly complex. He mentions that he hasn't seen a case like this in his 40-year career. He mentions there are so many different tentacles to this. Now, what exactly does he mean by those statements? The complexity of it. Does he mean simply that so many tips, it's been such a high profile case, there's been so many tips, so many leads, so many potential suspects? Or does he actually mean there are more individuals concerned in this? This goes deeper. This is a lot more complex than it appears on the surface. He makes the statement that he hasn't seen a case like this in 40 years. Now, when I first heard that, I thought to myself, okay, what he's saying here, the complexity of it, the tentacles of the investigation, he hasn't seen a case like this in 40 years. That's telling me, personally, and again, this is just my own personal opinion here, but this is complex, it's deeper, it's larger than what we have just in front of us here, this individual Richard Allen. Now, some people may say, he's talking about just, how high profile this case is. It's unprecedented in this town. Is that what he's referring to there in terms of I haven't seen this in the 40 years that I've been working? This is new to me. Is that what he's trying to get across? Now, some people will say that, but I fall on the other side of the fence here. The fact that he's using such terminology as the tentacles of this investigation, the complexity of it, tells me that we're not just looking at one individual who happened to stumble across two young girls. And the way that he uses that phrase there are so many tentacles to this, the complexity of the case. Now, when I think of that phrasing, that terminology, that word, tentacles, I think of far-reaching, deep, dark, complex, hidden. That's what I picture when I hear that word personally. So I don't think we're looking at just Richard Allen here, just a sole individual who came across those two girls that day. I just don't see that when listening to this particular interview. And bearing in mind, this is very recent, this radio interview that Doug Carter gave. I hear a investigation that, as I say, is very complex, far-reaching. When I hear the word tentacles, that's literally what I picture, far-reaching, complex, dark, hidden. Let me know in the comment section below what comes to your mind when you hear that phraseology put forward there by Doug Carter.
The other name that's involved in this whole story is Keegan Klein. Now, he has not been charged with anything in regards to the murders of these beautiful young ladies in Delphi. We know that he had some sort of communication with one of the ladies the day before they passed away. Has he been speaking to police? Has he been given some sort of plea deal to help police?
We'll continue to work on Keegan Klein and whatever his connectivity might be to Abby and Libby and almost 2,100 days ago.
So then we have some interesting discussion, very brief but interesting discussion regarding Keegan Klein. And I think that the way he answers this, the phraseology, the terminology that Doug Carter uses here is very telling. He says, we will continue to work on Keegan Klein. Now, if this was just some mutually beneficial, discussion between law enforcement and Keegan Klein, he's helping them, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours, I would have imagined he would have answered that basically like this. We will continue to work with Keegan Klein. But he almost emphasises the word on there. We will continue to work on Keegan Klein. That tells me that they believe that Keegan Klein is fairly integral to this investigation as a whole. I don't think we're looking at Richard Allen here as just, as I said earlier, this sole individual who came across these two girls that day by a stroke of pure chance. The way he's answered that there, we will continue to work on Keegan Klein. It's almost like they're trying to break him down, trying to extract more information regarding his connection to these murders.
What do you think the biggest mistake has been? Can you talk about that? Like, I know there's the ongoing investigation, but a couple times today you've said, we're going to learn from this. We've made mistakes. Give me an example.
Was the sketch, the two sketches?
No, I don't think that was a mistake at all. That was frankly a pretty effective strategy that kept information coming our way.
Because the second one looked nothing like this guy that's into custody. The first one, you could put a side-by-side up with Richard Allen and you can say, I see that. The second one looked nothing like that guy. And that's something.
So now we have some discussion regarding the two sketches. And I find Doug Carter's reply here very intriguing. Now, you can just catch it. He basically says, isn't that something? When they talk about the fact that these two sketches don't look anything like each other, Doug Carter's reply is, isn't that something? Now, I've never really bought into all these, these two sketches. You put this piece of paper with this piece of paper and then you'll get someone in between these individuals. For me personally, that's always been a load of rubbish. That's like saying you put a drawing of a banana on one side, a drawing of an apple on another side. If you combine the two, you get a kiwi fruit. It's a load of rubbish. To me, it's always been a load of rubbish. But this appears to have been a preconceived idea from law enforcement to release this sketch. I mean, we had some guy that looked in their 40s with a beard and another guy that looks like he's just graduated from school. Now, you can't say if you put the two together, you'll get the killer. That's like saying, put these two people together, you'll get a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. It doesn't work like that, does it? And as I say, I've never really bought into this whole idea of, if you combine this one with that one and, shave off the eyebrows, add a bit of hair, put a bit of makeup on the, it doesn't work like that. But as I say, it seems to have been a well thought out plan here. That's the way I hear that. Isn't that something? Almost sort of proud about that second sketch, that it kept tips coming in. It also could tell us that we're not just looking for one person. We're looking for multiple individuals here. Now, before we close today's video, I just have to give a massive shout out to a good friend of mine who also covers the Delphi case. He's a retired New York cop from Special Investigations. He has a channel here on YouTube, which goes by the name of Analysis of a Crime with CD. Many of you will have probably already heard of that. Do go and check him out. I'll put a link to his channel in the video description box below. Drop him a comment, say that Crime Scene to Courtroom sent you over. And as I say, he's got a lot of great in-depth content regarding the Delphi case, and he frequently does live streams. If you've enjoyed this particular video, please do give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and I look forward to seeing you all again for the next one. Take care. Cheers.